Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Special live edition of the Friday 15. This podcast is normally just for our supporters club members. Since we flew Jonathan Gold all the way to his native England, we decided to make it live for the masses. What a show. If you're a track and field fan or distance, if you're a track and field, is a marathon considered a track and field event? If you're a fan of the sport, let's put it that way, and you're not excited about this weekend, you're a fool. You've got the Penn and Drake relays going on right now. You've got the London Marathon on Sunday, Jacob Kiplimo's debut. Does Kipchoge have anything left? Hassan versus Sawe, insane stuff. You've also got the Diamond League. Normally, that's the big track meet that we're talking about, the track and field's opening season. It's loaded. Tons of Olympic champions. Mondo, Beatrice Chebet versus Sawe, Faith Kipyegon. Lots of names there. Talk a little about that, but we'll mainly talk London today. Jonathan, how are you?
Robert, I'm doing great. I'm back in the UK. I've got access to two of their most valuable commodities, which is Cadbury's chocolate. Anything in America is just a pale imitation. I can't believe you guys, anyone who thinks Hershey's is the best chocolate on earth, you need to get to England and actually try some of the real stuff. And then Scotch pancakes. They have these mini pancakes they sell in stores over here. I can't get enough. They're indispensable when covering a marathon. So yeah, I'm happy to be back in England, get to see Brighton play West Ham tomorrow, and I'm really excited for the London Marathon. The weather today was gorgeous. The media center is right in St. James's Park by Buckingham Palace, and just walking back to my Airbnb, I was like, wow, this is a glorious day. The fields are amazing. There's a little buzz, certainly in the marathon world. People are excited to see what Kiplimo does. They're excited to see Sifan Hassan. She said in the press conference today she didn't want any drama. I'm like, well, Sifan, you bring the drama to pretty much every race you've ever run. So there's going to be something dramatic probably will happen knowing that she's in the race. I can't wait. Can't wait to break it down. Just really in a great mood.
How do I look, John? Is my beautiful face? It's like very choppy for me, but I think it's just on my end.
You look like a Texan Hugh Grant. Oh, how do you actually look? The back and forth. It is a little choppy. I do see you've got your gray and blank shirt on. Yeah, it's freezing a little bit, but the picture quality is clear at least. I can still hear you perfectly fine.
Screw it. Getting rid of that camera.
So, Robert, we've got two. Well, I would say the men's race is better in terms of depth, but the women's race has more top-end quality because you've got, you're supposed to have the three fastest women in history. Now we're down to two of the three fastest women in history, but you've still got the Olympic gold and silver medalist from Paris, Sifan Hassan and Tigst Assfea. Which one do you want to start with?
Which race do I want to break down? Call me a sexist. I want to break down the men's race.
Robert, just because you want to start with the men doesn't make you sexist. You seem to try to lump sex and race into everything you discuss. When sometimes just you want to start with the men because a 56:42 guy is running his first marathon ever. Perfectly valid reason to want to talk about it.
John, I don't want to go into politics, but the people on your side of the aisle look at different outcomes. If I start the men first, they view it as sexism. Our friend David Monty used to famously always begin his race results weekly with the women's results, because if he didn't do so, it would be viewed as sexist. So anyways, no, I remember months ago, you called me up and you said, guess who's making their marathon debut in London? And I don't have a great memory, but I briefly paused and I thought, let's think here, Robert. Who do you want to see make their marathon debut? And there was one name that popped into my head, Mr. Kiplimo. If you look at the all-time list on the half marathon.
Robert, this was before he ran 56:42 in Barcelona. They said, hey, he's making his marathon debut. And we were freaked out because he's a former half marathon world record holder, former half marathon world champion, two-time defending world cross champ. And then after they announce him for London, he goes and runs 56:42 in Barcelona in February.
Correct. I'm going to put up those of you watching live, the all-time half marathon last year. He just dominates it. And this is, there's only one person that's broken let me make sure this is true. Yes, 58 minutes 3 times. He's actually done it 4. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the top 16 times. So, just a supreme talent at the half marathon. And look at that, 56:42. That's a 48-second gap between him and second place all time. So it's kind of wild, and he did that, in the midst of this buildup for London.
And yet, Robert, there is a guy who beat Jacob Kiplimo in a half marathon last fall, who ran 2:02:05 in his debut marathon last fall, and who is running the London Marathon on Sunday against Jacob Kiplimo, and his name's Sebastian Sawe. And I feel like we should, if Kiplimo wasn't making his debut, the question going into London might be, can Sawe do what Kiptum did? Essentially, is he the new guy? Because he's quite a bit older than Kiptum was. He's 30. He got a little bit of a later start in the sport, but he's showing all the signs, and his coach Claudio Berardelli, we'll get to it in a minute, he's just totally raving about his potential. So yeah, I mean, Kiplimo, it's interesting. I was talking to his coach, Jacopo Brazzi. I talked to Kiplimo. They're not going out and saying, oh, he wants to run 2:01 or whatever, or he's going to try to break the world record or anything crazy like that, which I do think maybe he could be capable of 2 hours flat, or perhaps the first legal sub 2 if this turns out to really be his event. That's possible down the line, but they're just saying, no, we want to go out, have a good run in our first time at the distance, try to be on the podium. That was what Jacob said his goal was. And Brazzi, in terms of time, said about 2:02, I think he will be good. But essentially, the first half is supposed to go out in a 61 flat or so, I think, barring any last-minute weather adjustments, which probably won't be necessary, though it's a little on the warmer side. And if that's the case, I think they're going to be perfectly happy to go with it. And then we'll see how he feels. Is he going to be the guy making moves, or is he just going to kind of do what Sawe did actually in Valencia? Sawe ended up getting dropped a little bit before coming over the top and realizing, oh, wait, we're almost at the finish line, and I feel amazing. So it's going to be interesting to see how Kiplimo plays it. But what's your sense? Like, do you think, is it even possible for a guy to be better at the marathon than Kiplimo is at the half?
Never say never. Never say never. Records are made to be broken. I mean, you see it in sport after sport, time after time. Nobody can play tennis like Federer. Oh, yes, they can. Nobody can run the marathon like Kipchoge. There's a guy named Kiplimo. And Kipton, excuse me. And then maybe there's somebody named Kiplimo who's even better. But if you guys and gals, if you're just getting the podcast on your commute to work, you need to read the previews. John, your men's preview was excellent. This is only the 4th time since 2000 that the half marathon world record holder, I shouldn't say only, I guess. It's the 4th time since 2000 half marathon world record holder is debuted in the marathon. Paul Turgot, Sammy Wanjiro, Kibawat Kandie, and Jacob Kiplimo. Interesting. Only one of those 3 previous men won their race. That was Sammy Wanjiro, won Fukuoka in 2:06:39. Kandie was 9th in New York. Turgot was 2nd in London. And that was that the big London with Ryan Hall and Canucci and Gebb?
No, this was, well, I think the big London you're thinking about was 2002, which didn't have Ryan Hall. But the big one, that was when Canucci set the world record and he was going up against Turgot and Gebb. That was 2002. Turgot debuted in London in 2001. But if you look at that list of guys, they're not the only half marathon world record holders who've run marathons, but they're the last ones who held the record when they debuted. And like you said, it's kind of a mixed bag. Turgot and Wanjiro both ran well. Kandie was 9th and has yet to really run a fantastic marathon, though he's dropped his PB a bit. But it's interesting because I don't think there's exactly a way to say, like, is this guy going to be a star? Because if you look at some of the great half marathoners we've seen over the last 20, 30 years, you've got guys like Ghebreselassie and Turgot and Wanjiro who all became marathon studs. And obviously Gebb and Turgot weren't just half marathoners, but they were former half marathon world record holders. And then you've got guys like Tedesse, Zersene Tedesse of Eritrea, who ran 58:23, held the world record for 8 years. You've got Candier. Those guys look like the half marathon's really just their best distance, and they can't go much further. Like Tedeschi tried famously for many years to run a good marathon and just couldn't do it. So Kiplimo, I'm more optimistic that he's going to be closer to the former category, just because he has run some very fast track times. I guess Tedeschi was silver medalist at Worlds in the 10K, so did he. And he was even Tedeschi was a world cross country champion. And Kiplimo is a 2-time world cross country champion. So I do think Kiplimo will be a good marathoner, but you just never totally know until they run the event. I thought Joshua Cheptegei would be better than he's been, and he just hasn't so far.
That's an interesting take. I forgot before we got into that. You asked me a direct question. I didn't answer it. It was a good question. If you remember what it was, remind me. Yeah, I mean, Cheptegei had all the credentials on the track, but I don't know. I've been waiting for Kiplimo for a long time. I just thought that, like, I mean, he's beaten Ingebrigtsen in a 3,000. I guess it's like, why hasn't he won more on the track? But the problem in the track is he doesn't have a great kick. I guess Candy didn't have a great kick either. But if you had asked me 2 days ago before you got to London, like, I mean, we did it on the regular podcast. Like, what are you expecting? I'm like, anything's possible. We were debating sub 2-hour marathon. I don't think really London's necessarily the course to do that. But I thought, look, we've never seen anyone like this in the half. He's in the form of his life. And there was an article that in Athletics Weekly that came out a few weeks ago where they, talked to his first coach who discovered Kiplimo and his brothers. He's one of like 28 siblings in Uganda. And they brought them over him. He's got an older brother who ended up winning worlds in the marathon. He's got another, John, you give out their accolades if you want.
Yeah, Victor Kiplanga was world champion in the marathon. And then Oscar Chalimo is a world championship medalist in the 5,000.
And he was younger than both of them. He was like 15 or 16 years of age. And this coach is like, I've never seen anything like this. And he claims that he like did some standard workout they always do, and they measure the lactate. And it's like, okay, he can break an hour and a half based on this. And it was like, he's 15. And John was always skeptical to me back in the day of like, well, can we really believe his age? I mean, he supposedly, that would mean he ran 27 minutes in Eugene like World Juniors because he got a medal. And this guy's like, look, I did x-rays of his bones to confirm his age. And he's always looked young to me. So if anyone was going to be something we've never seen in the marathon, I think it was going to be this guy. And what I was going to say was 2 days ago, if you told me we're going to get there and they're talking a big game, I would have said, yeah, he's my favorite. No doubt. I don't care that he hasn't run a marathon. But I was stunned by your article yesterday. You talked to the coach, you talked to him. He's like, oh, a good result would be the podium. And I'm like, are they just sort of downplaying things like Mo Farah did in his first race? Or I don't know. Or do they have some indication that something's wrong in the training? But they said the training was fine, right?
Yeah, no, the details about the training is what gives me the most confidence he's going to be good. I mean, aside from his insane running resume. But I asked him, did you change your training? Did you bump your mileage? That sort of thing. He said, yeah. And it was kind of hard to get a read because he started out by saying he went from like 120 kilometers a week, which is like, 70 something, low 70s maybe, to 220, something like that. And that just seemed like I'm like, no way was this guy only running 120 kilometers a week prior to this. So maybe something was lost in translation there, but he definitely bumped his mileage. And one of the things he said, I asked him, how did you improve so much in the half marathoner? You had the world record before, it got broken, and then you end up improving your time. You run 48 seconds faster than any human being's ever run. How'd you make such a leap in the half marathon? And he thought that doing the increased mileage that he's been doing during marathon training, that was what he changed. And so he gave the marathon training some credit, and hearing that he's clearly responded to it, that makes me optimistic that more mileage will make him, will make him a pretty good marathoner too.
Of course, you know me. I always want him to return to the track. If Grant Fisher wins that gold this summer, I want Jacob Kiplimo and a Kiplimo in there just to make sure there's no asterisk next to it. Yeah, it's hard to know what to know. So, we've seen it. I mean, most of these guys who are that talented end up being good at the marathon. It may not be their best event, but even Haile Gebrselassie, world record, Paul Turgat, world record, right? Wanjura, world record. So
Wanjura didn't set the world record in the marathon, but he did win the Olympic gold and Chicago and London.
Races ever. Yeah. So, yeah, I would just. He would have been my pick, but then we get you get to London and you're talking about Sawe. The scary thing about Sawe is what his coach said about him. I mean, he's got the second fastest debut ever, basically 2:02 flat.
In Valencia. 2:02:05 in Valencia last year
for the win, and then you run into Claudio Bardello, who's coached. I mean, was that the exhaustive list of world marathon majors champions that he's coached, or is it even more? But
from what it's at least 4. It's Martin Lell, who was one of the best marathoners of the 2000s and won London 3 times. It's Evans Chubat, who's been one of the best marathoners of the 2020s, won Boston twice. Benson Kipruto, a Boston, Chicago, Tokyo champ. Amos Kipruto, who won London in 2022. And I was asking Claudio about his potential. And, sometimes coaches will downplay it a little. They won't want to heap too much pressure on. He just essentially came out and said, this guy is different. And, he said, with all due respect to those other guys, I've done this job for 21 years. I'm not sure I've ever coached a guy like him. I'm in a very holistic perspective. He's probably the best guy I've ever coached for the marathon. And he said his potential is essentially unlimited. I'm yet to fully understand what is his potential. And I asked him, could he do sub 2? And he's like, he didn't rule it out. And I was already high on Sawe because, again, he beat Kiplimo in the Copenhagen half last fall. He debuted almost as fast as Kiptum in the same race and closed very well. He had a strong second half. And he's been a really good half marathoner throughout his career. So it is kind of interesting. I will say this, I first mentioned Sawe in an article a couple of years ago because I noted his progression. He essentially came out of nowhere. He has very limited results before the year 2022, which is the year he turned 27 years old. And I was like, this is kind of weird, right? That he goes from essentially no results to then running 58:02 in the half marathon in his first serious year. And I'm like, that is kind of a red flag to me. And Baradelli, I saw him in a marathon maybe a few weeks later. And he told me, hey, I saw that. You don't know his backstory. He's been training for a while, but we didn't feel like he was quite ready to start racing. So, then he finally starts racing. Then I asked Sawe in London, I said, why did it take you so long? And he's just said, well, I started running when I was young, when I was 11, but never trained that seriously until I wanted to wait till I got out of high school. And that was maybe 2015, 2016. And then he kind of started training in some training camps. So he had been training for a while, according to Sawe and Baradelli, just not racing. It's kind of curious that he didn't race more extensively when he was, a revelation in his first year. But ever since 2022, he's just been on a roll. Won the World Half last year. 2023. And then obviously fantastic debut in Valencia in 2024. Can't hear you.
Kind of reminds me of Kelvin Kiptum, right?
Yes. Kiptum was younger, though. That's the difference. Kiptum was 22 or 23 when he arrived on the scene. So it was 27. But it is similar. Kiptum went from basically off the radar to world record holder in the span of about 12 months.
I mean, a lot of these Ethiopians are debuting in 2021 in the marathon. Wanjura was young when he debuted. This guy doesn't debut until he's 29. Doesn't even really show up until a stop shot until he's 27, 2022. Although he did run 351 for 1,500 in 2018, John. So suspicious or not, whatever. The dude's been in the testing pool for a while. I'm not looking backwards. I'm looking forwards. So, you've got him, and then we've been overly, for some reason, we're focused on those two, but.
Oh yeah, we have the Olympic champ in this field as well. That he's just suddenly an afterthought.
You have the Olympic champion Tamaratola. You have Eliud Kipchoge. I mean, does he have anything left? People are like saying, can he at least break Bekele's Masters world record? You've got, I had forgotten the guy who won last year, Alexander Matusow. It's not like he won last year. I forgot where he ran after that. It wasn't great.
But he ran the Olympics and it was like 21st. But you've got him, and you've got Milkesa Mengesha, who was an age group phenom, former world under-20 champion in cross-country, who won Berlin last year in 2:03:17. You've got Abdi Nagaye, who is an Olympic silver medalist from 2021 and won New York last fall. So you've got a lot of guys. I mean, there are just a ton of studs in this race. So you could run a fantastic race and finish 4th or 5th. Timothy Kiplagat is a 2:02 guy, and he's like the 6th or 7th best guy in this field. So it's incredible depth. It's one of the classic London Marathon fields. And yeah, it's going to be really fun, a really tough race to run. It's just interesting. Like last year, the top guys went out in 61:29 and all basically just died. And I still the field wasn't as good as it is this year, but I still don't really understand what happened that second half. I think if they go out in 61:29 this year, they're going to pick it up.
Well, there's 6 marathon majors. Plus, the Olympics would be 7. You've got the champions of 4 of those? All you're missing is Boston, Tokyo, and obviously the Tokyo champ's not going to come here. Which one else? Which other one am I missing?
We don't have the Chicago winner, John Courier, because he just ran Boston.
Because he ran Boston, yeah. All right, John. For our supporters club members, by the way, folks, the plane didn't fly itself to London. We had to buy a plane ticket. It costs money. So support independent journalism right now. If you don't have the money, follow us. I don't know the button. You push it somewhere. Follow, whatever you're on, X, Twitter, follow us, YouTube. And then preferably go to letsrun.com/subscribe. Sign up for the supporters club so you can get this as a podcast. Won't miss any of our content. By the way, supporters club members, don't worry. I'm going to get opening day, Diamond League tomorrow. We're always excited. I'm going live at 9 a.m. right when the meet's over. John's going to be at a soccer match. Weldon, people are asking where Weldon is. One guy on the comments was very mean to Weldon, if you're listening. Weldon, he said, I'm glad Weldon's not here. He's been mailing it in. He barely follows the sport. Folks, that's not true. Weldon has 2 young daughters. He's busy with them. He's our ad guy, too, though. I learned today, these Apple shit costing me 30% of my revenue. Anyway.
You know what they always say? The supporters club members love hearing Robert talk about the revenue streams of letsrun.com. Well, Weldon keeps the lights on. It's a valued member of the team. But sorry, Robert. I only, I kind of have a rule when I'm in England. I do try to see a Brighton match when I can, and unfortunately, it's overlapping with the German Diamond League. So I'm going to be at the Amex Stadium for Brighton West Ham. I'm sad I'm missing it though, because this Diamond League, it's a great season opener. It used to be Doha would always get great fields and they'd start the season, and now we start in China. And last year started with a Mondo world record and Gudaf Sagai running like 350 in the 1500. And I think this year could be even better. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's round out the men's field. Just want to talk Kipchoge. He claims he's still going to be going out with the leaders in 61 flat. He said, essentially nothing has changed. I still feel good in training. Like, I was asking him about this, and some people on our YouTube comments were thinking it's blasphemy to be asking a couple of questions that suggested Kipchoge is aging. And maybe I should have phrased it a little better, because I was talking to some of the British, newspaper journalists. They had a separate interview with him. They're like, oh yeah, he was great. He basically said that he thought being on the podium would be good. And just giving some insight that I didn't get. So maybe my bedside manner needs to improve. But yeah, he's still showing up. He's obviously earned the right to go out however he chooses. Like, he's a fantastic ambassador for the sport. But I just look at his most recent results, and I guess the positive case for him would be 2 of his last 3 marathons have been on hilly courses, which just clearly he's not good at. But I can't get past his Tokyo race last year. And it's not that you're not allowed to have a bad marathon, but that race, it's not like he was injured leading up to it. He just got dropped and before halfway. And I look at that, I'm like, that would have happened to a vintage Eliud Kipchoge without some sort of ear blockage. So that has me doubtful that he's going to be competitive on Sunday, but this is the greatest marathoner of all time we're talking about, so I'm not going to just totally write him off.
By the way, we will be talking about Faith Kipchoge on sub 4. There's a lot to talk about in this show. Put it in the notes, John. I'm focused on London. I'm doing like 3 things. Normally I have Weldon kind of doing the comments. People want to know if I'll send a Supporters Club shirt. Yes, overseas, UK, wherever you want. These goddamn tariffs may make it. You might have to pay the tariff. I don't know how that works. But sure, yeah, shipping's about $20, but I'm happy to do that. Yeah, look, Kipchoge's washed to me. Like, I mean, maybe he could do something like Bekele. Bekele every once in a while, like you kind of think, oh my God, could he win it? And then he doesn't. But I'm glad he's in the field because I'm not like, I shouldn't say he's washed. I don't know that. That's what I think. I still, would it stun me if he went out there? And it would stun me if he won it. It would stun me.
I'd be pretty shocked. Yeah. Robert, I think his next 4 years are basically what we saw from Bekele the last 4 years. He might have an occasional moment of brilliance. If he times things right, maybe he gets on the Kenyan team, but that team's even harder to make than the Ethiopian team. But I don't think he's just going to be contending in every single marathon he's in. But he's signed up for Sydney next, and I don't know who else they're going to sign. But right now, I mean, I guess he's the only guy on the field, so I can't really compare it. But I wouldn't be shocked if he goes to Sydney and wins it in 2:06.
2:06? Then they should strip that thing of its major status. Like, we don't need to waste our time on that. What about Tola? The Olympic champ. Some of the quotes seem to be like he was satisfied about being the Olympic champ. He'll always be the Olympic champ. But do you feel like he's been training hard and is in good shape?
I haven't heard anyone saying oh man, this is, he's in amazing shape and he's going to go rock this thing. So I think he'll maybe, I wouldn't pick him. He dropped out of London last year. He wasn't great in New York in the fall. He was only 4th. Granted, he was bouncing back from the Olympics, but I would go with Kiplimo or Sawe.
Okay, you and I have been known to like to put, what's the term in Britain? Punt, or when you bet? Isn't there some weird term they use over there?
They use punt. Yeah, have a punt.
I don't know if you've seen the odds. I don't want to bias you if you haven't.
I haven't seen the odds, no.
Okay, good. So, folks, Supporters Club members, I published a last-minute Boston Marathon betting guide. And I'm going to publish a London Marathon betting guide only to Supporters Club members. Well, we can break it down a little bit and help me with my logic because I haven't gone through it. Who do you think is listed as the betting favorite for this race?
Ooh. Depends if they've read the Let's Run preview.
Oh, that's true.
I'll say Sawe, but Sawe does have the fastest time from last year, so I'll say him.
Okay, but what odds do you think should be the biggest favorite? I mean, again, we've got Kiplimo, Sawe, Tola, Matuso, Kipchoge, Mingesha, Timothy Kipchoge, Najayi. I mean, he won New York.
I mean, if you're being fair, probably plus 200, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I'll share you the odds here, folks. The betting favorite is none other than Jacob Kiplimo. John did say plus 200. When you've got that many people, that's a 33% chance. This is the highest favorite, the biggest favorite.
Yeah.
So put this up on the screen, hopefully here. And Jacob Kiplimo plus 200. There's implied odds of 33%. Sawe plus 250, 28.6%. Tamara Tola's plus 300 is 25%. So they're fairly close to each other in terms of odds. It drops off significantly. The next person is the defending champion, Alexander Mutiso. What have you heard about him, John? Plus 600.
I
Then
talked to his
Kipchoge.
agent. Basically, it sounds like he's in pretty good shape. Again, they weren't saying like, oh man, he's ready to go crazy, but he won his tune-up race, which was the Maragami half marathon. Didn't run crazy fast there, but 59:16, he got the win. Like, I think he could show up and be in the same shape he was in last year, but that might get him third or fourth instead of first because the field's improved.
Yeah. Kipchoge is plus 800, as is the Berlin champ Mengesha. When I look at those odds, man, Kiplimo's got to win 1 out of 3 times over a totally stacked field when he's downplaying his expectations. I can't go there. And then I really want to bet on him because I really like him. I mean, John's always experienced. The seasoned coach is talking him up. I don't hate that. I certainly like Sawe better at 28.6% than I do Tola. But then you're dropping off at less than half that here. No way am I touching Kipchoge. Probably not Muteso. I would say this would be the other bet here, or the one that consider betting. Mengesha, Berlin champion, former world junior cross country champion. Like maybe he's just made for the marathon, right?
Robert, we're thinking the exact same way. I think Sawe is not bad value because I think he does win probably more than 28.6% of the time. And if you are someone who likes to take a shot on an underdog or a longer shot, Mengesha is probably the guy I would target because he's big talent and he's coming off that win in Berlin. I don't know how his training's been or anything like that, so I can't share any details like that. But those are the two bets looking at that table that I would be interested in.
His other marathons, 205 in Valencia in 2022 for 7th, win in Daegu 206, 6th in the World Championships 210, 1st in Berlin 203.17.
What are Essa's odds there, Robert? Because Essa was, second in Boston. He's been second in some of these races. I think he was second behind Mengesha in Berlin last year as well.
He's plus 2,200, which is 4.3%. I do want to point out here, folks, if you go all the way down here, these odds all add up to 135.8%.
Oh, he's second in Chicago, by the way. Sorry, it's behind Korea, but point stands.
That's why it's hard to make money because they're putting a lot of extra odds in here. Should add up to 100, adds up to 135.8. So, I said on the Boston thing, I did say that John Career was the pick if you're going to bet the men's race, but on the women's race, they had Helen O'Beary like 60% favorite or something like that, almost 66%. I was like, no way. But then I thought that Y squared was your pick.
Okay. Any final things on the men's race? Or we got a lot of topics to hit, so let's move on to the women here. Unless you have anything else to say.
No, women's a lot easier to analyze. Okay, there's only 2 women that are going to win this race. Well, I mean, I guess they could both blow up, but I don't see that. We were going to originally have 3 of the 4 fastest in history. Now we have 2 of the 3 fastest in history. We've got the Olympic champion Sifan Hassan. We've got the former world record holder Tigst Assfea, and they have a history. They bumped each other. At the end of the London race, some interesting comments. Another great preview you wrote today. Like Hassan's like, look, I'm used to people falling on the time and track. It's not a big deal. I don't know, man. If Assfea had gone down with about 300 meters left in the Olympics, I don't know what the right call would have been. Would you have DQ'd?
Oh,
you were because it was Hassan's fault.
You were preparing some Jeremiad in defense of Tigst Assfea, and she was, in the press conference saying, "Oh, it kind of threw me off. It might have cost me the win." I'm like, well, Hassan smoked you over the last 200, so I don't think so. And that's kind of how Hassan said it. She's like, yeah, maybe she's just not used to it because she's a marathoner. I'm like, no, she used to be an 800 runner like you. Like, it is crazy. These 2 women who ran the 800 at the 2016 Olympics were 1-2 in the marathon 8 years later. But they bumped each other. It was in Paris, Robert. But I'm not sure if you remember, 4 months earlier in London, Assfea is, got about 800 meters to go, and she moves in front of Perez Jepchirchir because they're kicking for the win. And it wasn't, she didn't completely cut her off, but she kind of did. And it was in a way she was trying to get the inside position for the turn, and Jepchirchir shoves her out. And then ultimately Jepchirchir just kind of goes around and runs wide anyway and passes her. But My point is, the last 2 marathons that Assefea's been in, they've come down to kicks, and she's been involved in an incident in the last half mile. So I think we could see that again, because the pace, this is women's only paces. There's no mass race for them to follow, and there's no men's field. And that means that they're going to be going out a fair bit slower than you would if you were in a Chicago or, if you had male paces like they do in some of these, in Berlin or whatever. So
did you say what the pace is going to be?
I have to look that up. I had the number somewhere. It's just going to take me a second, but I think it was about 68 flat. Let me just confirm that. But I think that's well within their capabilities, obviously, because Hassan's run 2:13 and Assefea's run 2:11.
If this was pure rabbit and all male race, I might go with Assefea. But more tactical race, how do you drop her? That's what we were saying about Arbiri last week. We don't know what Hassan is like in a pure out time trial. We know what Assefea is like. She at one point had the world record. And
about 67:30. Sorry, that was what I was told. So a bit faster than 68 flat. I mean, Hassan did run 2:13.44 in Chicago. We know she can run pretty quick. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be a 2:13 race. Unless Assefea decides to really pick it up. And I asked Assefea,
what a great photo that is by Michael Steele. Look at that, by the way. We're showing
it's
the
just
collision.
Fantastic.
Oh, yeah, I get sued by putting that up on the screen. Better take it off. Anyways.
But yeah, these two, I think they're a cut above. I guess there is a woman... there's a woman with a resume who a few years ago you'd be like, and a few years ago we did say, wow, she's the best long distance runner in the world. Jocelyn Jepkosgei. In 2017, she was smashing world records on the roads. She ran 64:51. And we're like, this woman is incredible. Since then, she's won New York. She's won London. And in her build up for this race, she ran 64:13 in Barcelona. So she's in really good shape. She was third in London. She was 1 second behind Assefea last year. So why couldn't she win? But then I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, okay, either the race is going to go really fast, in which case I don't think she can run I'm not sure if she can run 2:14, because I said she was only fifth in Chicago in 2:20 last fall. I said, what happened? So I went out too fast, and she went through halfway in 67:30. Now maybe that was her first 5K was also quite quick. So, but still, I'm not sure if she can do like a 2:13, 2:14, 2:15. And then if it's slower, she was only 1 second behind Assefea, but Hassan at the end of these marathons, am I going to pick her over Sifan Hassan in a tactical race? No. Am I going to pick her over Assefea? Probably not either. So, and that's kind of the two ways I see it going. So she's really, really good, but I think she's just up against two of the very, very best in the world.
Yeah, I guess she shouldn't be totally written off with that 60. I mean, you run a PB. I mean, although it's weird. Someone did point out, Brian Way in the comments, you used to run a PR in the half. And I'm like, oh, you're not training well for the marathon. Now I don't even give a shit. It's like, you're running well. Okay, you're running well. Because I feel like the marathon now is you need less specific training for it because of the shoes. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it's weird. I used to really think, oh, you don't need to be running that fast. That might be a bad sign. It might be a bad sign, honestly, for Kiplimo. Maybe he's getting faster at the shorter distances. I mean, Weldon Johnson and Paul Radcliffe both, but Paul actually ended up being a good marathon. When Weldon started training for the marathon, he got better at the shorter events and running great 10Ks, but never a good marathon. So that could be kind of Kiplimo. He's running a great half, not a marathon. But actually, that 64:13, though, is not shocking. I mean, the last 2 years there, she's run 64:46 and 64:29. So that's very much similar to what she's run in the past. And look at her last. You were starting to talk me into it a little bit, considering her. But I'm going to look at her last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 marathons. Starting 24, going to 23, going to 22. 5th in Chicago, 3rd in London, 12th in Boston, 4th in Chicago, 7th in Boston, 2nd in London. She hasn't won a marathon since the 2021 London Marathon. So she is only 31, but that's a tall order. All right, betting odds. Give me your prediction, John. Who do you think is the betting favorite? And what do you think the odds are?
Hassan, and she's probably. I'd probably have Hassan at like almost close to even. I mean, I would have her maybe plus 110 or plus 120, and then Assfea at like plus 175, and then a big drop off.
Okay.
Maybe plus 175 is probably too high, actually, the bookies, because they're greedy.
Looks like John and I are going to be agreeing on this. Well, I just don't know if it's a good bet, though. But here we go. Sifan Hassan, minus 175. So that means she's a 63.6% chance to win this. The stuff is a plus 200, which is exactly 1 out of 3. So if you think those two are winning, they're not actually, that's not, those are about right. And you've got Koskei plus 1,000, which is 9%. Owimu, Vivian Chariot plus 1,400, and on down the line. There's actually only 5 women with a greater than 5% chance of winning. Hassan. Does Assfea win this 1 out of 3 races? Or do you think Hassan wins this more out of two out of 3 times or more?
I mean, Hassan's run 4 marathons and she's won 3 of them. She did have a bad marathon in Tokyo last spring. I mean, are those odds? I think Hassan, I really hesitate to make anyone a more than 50% favorite in a marathon. Like we were talking about Obiri in Boston, and she has a great record in these tactical races, and she got beat. So is Hassan 63%? I'd probably have her maybe a hair lower than that, but I would definitely pick her over Assfea.
Well, I know, but in terms of betting, I think Assfea is the bet.
Probably
those two for sure. I mean, plus you bet less and you make more. More fun that way.
Okay. So Robert, let's end this.
One podcast or a bet podcast, but I think it's kind of the same. You because otherwise you this person's got a good chance. This person's got a good chance. But like, I think the betting is a very good indicator because it makes you think. And John and I told it for a guy who bet several $100,000 for the Olympics. It really makes you think. Okay, yeah, of course, Hassan's a favorite, but how big of a favorite?
Okay, so Robert, let's end this London discussion. Let's put ourselves on the spot here. I want men's or women's winner, and I want a prediction on time and place for Jacob Kiplimo in his debut. So I'm going to go Sawe. I'm going to go Hassan. Kiplimo, I'm going to say he runs 2:02:07 for second.
What's the course record in London?
2:01:25 by Kelvin Kiptum in 2023.
No, I like that. I think he's going to run well. He's always lost out on the track. He lost to Sawe in the half. I think that's actually right. John does not root. I do root. I'm rooting for Kiplimo, but I'm not going against Baradelli. He's a very smart guy. I think that's a fairly good pick. So I mean, we're gonna have a fast time for London. Weather's good. It's gonna be like 57 to 63 last time I checked. Sunny. Yeah. I don't have anything really to change about yours. In terms of the women, I was kind of thinking Hassan was vulnerable. It is interesting. You said the one marathon she did the worst at was when she trained just for the marathon. And she's been training just for the marathon for this. And there was a very interesting quote here, John, because she took like 4 months after the Olympics. Remember, she ran 3 races. But a person in the YouTube chat, this is inside information, John. Said that they were at the same camp as Hassan in February, and she wasn't running at all. She had a calf issue. Have you heard anything about that? Here we go.
No, I mean, I didn't get a chance to chat with her coach, Tim Robury, today, because it's interesting. Hassan, like, she was in very high demand. Like, she's clearly a very big star, even bigger now, that she's the Olympic marathon champion. So it took us a while to talk to her. She said she trained well. She said she was in Kenya and Ethiopia, and it was hard for her to compare her shape because she was running different courses than in the past, but she didn't say anything about an injury. She felt like she was in pretty good. She said compared to 2 years ago when she won in London, she felt she was pretty similar to that.
And the Safa said she's in better shape than when she ran the world record. I'm going to go with the Safa with the upset. Jerry Direct on YouTube. Sifan Hassan is unpredictable. I was in the same camp with her in February in Kenya, and she didn't run, dealing with a calf injury. Only some exercises in the swimming school. The inside scoop from our worldwide audience. Time.
Okay.
I'm going to go like 2:13:57. Well, if they go out 67:30.
Kiplimo, do you have a time on Kiplimo?
Maybe 2:14:12.
No, Kiplimo is not running 2:14:12. Jacob Kiplimo, time prediction, please.
Oh, I said yours is fine. 2:02 low.
Are you going to prices right me? If you're going to do that, you need to go 2:02:06 or 2:02:08.
I'm just going with your time. We don't need to be disagree just like these sports shows.
Right.
You're electric and I, John. You and I think the same. You're a younger version of me, just without hair.
Okay. Well, I hope not on every single topic. But anyway, let's talk some Xiamen Diamond League, Robert. That's tomorrow.
What? I'm debating sending someone a gift here. Maybe it'll just be a Supporters Club sticker. Let'sRun.com sticker. I asked this, John. This Diamond, how many people were how many Olympians were in Grand Slam track? First show.
How many Olympians? Probably pretty much all of them.
Yeah. How many Olympic champions are in Grand Slam track? And how many Olympic champions are in the first Grand Slam track? And how many Olympic champions are in the Xiamen Diamond League? I mean, this field is phenomenal. If it wasn't for London, if we didn't have Penn and Drake and all this stuff, we'd be extremely excited about it. I am one of the few people that are like, there's nothing wrong with the Diamond League except for the fact that it's not popular. We have some amazing matchups or amazing races. I don't necessarily matchups because there's not necessarily a lot of drama, but we just came out, 2 or 3 days ago that Faith Kipchoge in June is going to go for a sub 4-minute mile. That's less than 2 months away. She needs to be in shape now. Well, guess what? She's running the 1,000 this week in China. So we're going to find out what she looks like real soon. We've also got an incredible 5,000 with Beatrice Chebet, the Olympic 5 and 10,000 meter champion, versus Gudov Sagai. Like, we've got El Bakali in the steeple. Like, right there, that's just a lot of great stuff from a distance perspective. And I'm not even talking about Mondo, Tobogos in the 100 against Christian Coleman, and some other. I mean, I shouldn't even mention Coleman. It's not fair to the other guys that are better than him in this race. But Tobogo's got a pretty stacked field in the 100, right, John? And then we've
Tobogo, Simbine, and Coleman, which is going to be good. You've got Beatrice Chebet and Gudov Sagai in the 5,000. So the world record holder against the Olympic champion. Carsten Warholm's running the 300 hurdles. El Bakali, who's won back-to-back Olympic titles. He's in the steeple. Yeah, it's going to be a great meet. And there are more Olympic champions in this one. Yes, it helps because they can count field event athletes. Grand Slam track didn't have any field events. I think I had to count at 5 Olympic champs for Grand Slam. You had Gabby Thomas, Sydney, Masai Russell, Cole Hawker, and Wayne Yonyi. So maybe I'm missing someone in there. I think there's more than 5 in Xiamen, but I enjoyed the first Grand Slam meet too. But yeah, I guess of these events, I'm certainly going to be following the 1,000 meters to see how fast Kipchoge does. Now, I know she's probably going to have some advantages in this breaking 4 attempt in Paris. Her agent, Valentine Trow, said they're still kind of thinking about the specifics, so he doesn't know if there's going to be male paces or not, or whether it'll be record eligible. But essentially, if Faith Kipchoge is going to run sub 4 minutes for a mile with, some advantages in June, I'm going to expect her to be able to run 1,000 meters at sub 4 pace in April. And the world record is 228.98. Kipchoge attempted it in Monaco back in 2020, came just shy, ran 229.15. Kipchoge's coming off a seat. She's broken the world record in the 15 the last 2 years. I remember she broke it in her first meet of the season last year. Granted, it was a little later, but I think she's going to have her eye on that 1,000 meter world record, and I would guess she's going to break it. So 228.98, that's the time to look for.
That's kind of wild, right? I mean, we're talking about to do a sub 4 minute mile, you almost have to run 2:29.15 the whole damn way, because it's 60 seconds per 400 does not get you a sub 4 minute mile. You end up what, 1.8 seconds short. Actually, I want to do the math on that. 2:29.15 may not even be sub 4 minute mile shape. What is the equivalent, John? It's 3:41 point what?
I always said like 342 for the 342 low, the way I thought of it. But yeah, that is interesting, to the pace thing. You know, I think, I'm like, oh yeah, 230 flat, that's 400 mile pace. No, it's not. So what do you think what does she have to run for you to think like, hey, sub 4 is actually possible? Or is it just impossible for us to tell because we don't know what super spikes Nike's going to unveil within the next 2 months?
Oh my God. For the record, 4 minute mile pace, if you run at 342.2, which is what you need to run for 1,500 meters. So she's got to go another.
What pace is that for
meters.
1,000? Do you have it?
228.13.
Oh, what? So no woman in history has ever run sub 4 minute mile pace for anything longer than 800 meters. And Kipchoge's trying to do it for 800 meters plus another 809.
No. Well, yeah, but someone's probably made 900 or something. She's got to go.
No way. I mean, maybe in 1,000 or something. They don't really run a 900. You don't really run a 1,000. So, yeah, that's good. Okay, then I think she kind of has to break the world record for me to be like feeling good about it.
The sub 4 mile attempt. When I first saw it, Weldon texted me perfect. It's good. Like sometimes the third person's good because there'll be perspective that other people think, but his perspective is exactly what I posted in the message board. He's like, "Is it April Fool's?" No, and then he's like, "What technology do they have up their sleeve?" And I just, to me, like my gut reaction is this is ludicrous. This is foolish. But Weldon's third point was Nike must know something, because why would they want to embarrass Faith Kipchoge? Like, I don't think, like, I coached plenty of 407 guys. Now, admittedly, the 407 guys normally have a rabbit for the whole way because they're getting their ass kicked in college, but we never were even contemplating them breaking 4. Hell, I had a lot of 403, 404 guys that wasn't contemplating breaking 4. So I can see she had a good rabbiting. She was a little bit behind them for like 2 minutes and 11 seconds when she ran her 1,500 meter world record. I can see the rabbiting helping at least 2 more seconds because you got it for the full way. And then I can see if you have a diamond shape or whatever, that's maybe another 2 seconds. But we're still at 403. That would be like best case scenario.
I see it similarly, Robert. And if breaking 2 hadn't happened, I would have said Nike are foolish. They're wasting their time and money on this publicity stunt, which, I guess if you get a lot of attention, it's still a successful publicity stunt. But it's very similar. Kipchoge's in the same kind of part of her career as Kipchoge, where she has nothing to prove. She is clearly the best ever. She's unbeatable in her main event. And, Kipchoge didn't actually have the actual world record, but Kipchoge has the world record and triple Olympic gold. So she needs a new challenge, and this is it. And she's not getting any younger, coming off a year where she broke the world record. So I do think the timing makes sense. But yeah, even if you give her perfect ideal pacing and male paces that she can draft off of the whole way, even that I think only gets you to like 403, like you said, Robert. I think you need another. Maybe let's say she's a half a second or a second fitter than last year, which is quite a significant amount when you're that good, but not impossible if she gets a little bit fitter, even though she's getting older. I think you still need some sort of thing to take you over the top. And for breaking 2, it was the combination of the shoes and the pacing formation. For this, we already have great shoes. So does Nike have another pair of next generation super spikes that are that big of an improvement on what are already really good spikes? Maybe. But that's what kind of needs to happen.
Now, in hindsight, let's do the math on breaking 2. We were at 203 basically, right? The world record was basically 203 flat.
It was 202.57 at the time, yeah.
And we went to 2 minutes. We cut off 3 minutes the first time. The way I would view that with some hindsight now, I would say One thing that people don't really talk about, I'm going to say 30 seconds for the fact that you don't have to run over to the side to get your water. Slow down. I mean, how often? Well, maybe it's a little high, but 2 seconds times 8 times, maybe. I mean, 20 seconds. Let's just say 30 seconds, and then I'm going to say the shoes are worth a minute and a half. It's 2 minutes, and then the pacing for the last half of the race versus the first half is the race. Another minute and a half. So that's 3.5 minutes. Yeah, we went from whatever. Basically it. So here, though, we already had no wind. There is the wind resistance. If you're in the V it might actually be less than wind, but there was basically no wind when she's already running on a perfect. Oh, and it's perfectly flat to the course. So maybe the no water breaks and the flatness or 30 seconds. Here, she's already running perfectly flat. It was already great conditions. So all you're doing is just like the natural wind resistance. It was also pretty humid apparently when she ran her world record in the 1500, which is good because John Kellogg always says moisture is less dense than the other. So that's not happening. Like I was extremely skeptical of the first sub two and I wasn't even watching it. I was just on principle. I was like, okay, when's he going to blow up? Now he got a lot closer. So that's doubting Nike is kind of like,
that's what I've learned my lesson. I'm not saying
like these morons that were doubting Ben Lanana would get it going at Virginia. I'm like, he's going to get it going. Don't doubt that. He always gets it going. So I would say doubting Nike is stupid, but their stock thing is in the tank. And so, one of these Nike so-called geniuses just traded Luka Doncic to the Lakers for a bag of trash. Since I'm obsessed with Nico Harrison being an idiot, maybe Nike's lost their muster.
Okay. Anything else from Jarman you wanted to highlight, just in terms of a race or an athlete you're watching? Chibet against Sagai, it's going to be interesting. We know how good Sagai is on the circuit, but I just don't think she's good enough to drop Chibet at this point. Chibet's ascending, and assuming she's in shape this early in the season, I'm still going with her. But the great thing about the Diamond League season opener is we don't know exactly what kind of shape all these people are in. We do get these upsets. We have someone who comes out and is in great shape early in the season, or someone has maybe been dealing with an injury or something, and we get some surprises. So it's gonna be fun. Sharika Jackson's running the 200 for the women. Tobogo, like we said, he's always fun to see how he races. He's been mostly doing 400s, and now he's actually stepping into the 100. Then a men's steeple, you got a lot of. I'm just looking. There's no Americans in there or anything, but El Bakali's doing it. Abraham Kibrewat. Abraham Sime, Firewood from Ethiopia. You get most of the top.
How many of these guys are medalists? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys not named El Bakali who've run 806 or faster in their careers.
Right. Yeah. Kibrewat was medalist last year at the Olympics, and then was it Firewood that won that ended El Bakali's Diamond League win streak? There were multiple. It wasn't just Diamond League; it was like all year. But I believe that was who won the Diamond League last year.
Wait, I was going to be like, wait a minute.
His name was Sarum. Sorry.
Medal? I briefly was like, who got the third medal in the steeple? Like, which random Kenyan? I don't know his name. I don't know. I was like, oh, wait a minute. There was a guy named Kenneth Rooks. Is he from Ethiopia, John?
Yeah, I think so. Must be. Sorry, Amos Sarum was the guy who won the Diamond League final, and he is not in Jarman. His brother Edmund Sarum is.
John, what do BYU runners and Kenyan runners have in common?
I don't know.
I can't say the whole joke that I just thought of.
I didn't hear any of the jokes, so okay.
They're overaged and they're good at the steeple. And they like to have multiple wives if they could.
Oh my God, Robert. Just taking shots. Like all the Mormon runners I've coached, I've interacted with, have always been very friendly. I would say, they're not just good at the steeple, though, Robert.
Nothing wrong with it. It's just not, it's illegal in this country, but I'm just.
Okay, all right. It's just outdated. Like,
Jacob Kiplimo was one of 28 brothers, 28 siblings. I guarantee his dad didn't have all those women with the same woman.
He's not even Kenyan. And also, BYU is pretty good at the marathon. If Monday's Boston Marathon was anything to go by as well. Okay. So yeah, Jarman, Saturday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern. If you're maybe, I was going to say DVR, but it's on Flow Track. So
no, just wake up midway through, and then if you miss anything, join the 9 a.m. live Supporters Club podcast. I'll do live on YouTube. Well, first of all, if you're a Supporters Club member, just sleep in and listen to the podcast. But right at 9, I'm going to give you my thoughts. I'm going to watch the race, tell you what. No way I'm writing a recap with you. And people are asking where Weldon is. He's on vacation. No way am I writing, spending 3 hours to write written recaps take forever. So I'm not doing that Saturday.
Yeah, we'll be back normal service next weekend. We've got the Grand Slam track Miami and the second Chinese Diamond League. And I guess, Robert, before we end this thing, because people are going to want to watch this DMR at Penn, which is starting in 7 minutes. It's got some absolutely loaded fields there.
I don't want to pay for flow chart, but you can tell me what happens. We'll just talk about it, and that way we'll have another topic on the show.
Oh,
on time. Anyone watching live, are they on time in Penn? A lot of times they fall behind. If they're on time, we'll go through the show. The DMR will be 10 minutes.
Okay, I might have to leave. I'm supposed to have dinner plans this evening. So, the one other thing I wanted to mention was this Grand Slam track. They've got the Miami fields announced, the full fields for next week, and what struck me was two things mainly. The fields aren't as good as the Kingston one. You don't have quite as many compelling matchups, though obviously you've still got all the races that have signed up. So Nagoose, Kerr, Hawker are going to be running again, Marco Arop. But the other thing is that Quincy Hall, the Olympic champion in the 400, who was signed up to be a racer for the whole series, he's withdrawn. He's not going to be a racer for Grand Slam track. They've replaced him with Stephen Gardner, which is about as good a replacement as you can get. Gardner is the 2021 Olympic champ. He's had injury issues, so he hasn't. Well, I guess it's injuries. I mean, he has a habit of dropping out of a lot of races as well, but he has not made it to a global final since he won Olympic gold in 2021. But he's one of the best ever in the 400. He signed up as a racer, which I did think is interesting because he doesn't run a lot of Diamond Leagues. He's run 5 Diamond Leagues in the last 6 years, but I think probably the meets being based in North America helps him. But Quincy Hall withdrew, and I was saying to them, this is really interesting to me. Why has this happened? And he kind of gave this vague statement on Instagram. And then I reached out to his agent, John Regis, and essentially he just said Quincy wants to focus on the 400 meters. And this is something that a few other athletes have kind of mentioned. Ry Benjamin has said, he doesn't like the doubling aspect. I think Grant Holloway is the same. He's not a fan of the doubling. And now we're seeing a guy he'd signed up, would have been paid quite nicely, I'm sure, to run the series, and he just didn't think he was quite ready to go in the 200 meters, wasn't going to be competitive enough. He wants to just focus on his main distance. He hasn't run a 200 meters since high school in 2016, Robert. So this, he'd be a great fit, actually, the 400 hurdles group. He was a former NCAA champ in the 400 hurdles, but yeah, I thought it was notable. He's essentially come out and said, this is, the doubling, I'm not on board and I'm not going to do it.
I think that's the main reason why people don't do it. I mean, I talked to a top sprint agent at NCAA, said the same thing about one of his clients. So, in particular, if you're a hurdler, a short hurdler, it's all rhythm. So Grant Holloway's not going to lose out on that much money. You would think the money would do it, but I guess if you're going to get injured, it's not worth it. So, speaking of other sprint news, we didn't talk about this. Maurice Gleaton Jr., 998. This is a high schooler in Georgia. Or is a Georgia commit. 0 wind. So everyone goes crazy. I'm going to go gouge younger, but there'll be some random U.S. high schooler running on sub 10. I guess it's not random, but this is the 3rd year in a row we've seen someone in the high school ranks in the United States break 10. First one.
The DMR, by the way, the gun just fired, Robert. They are off.
Okay, they're off. By the way, the women's DMR is over. I'm not paying for flow track, but I've gone to the live results page. Vin Lanana haters go home devastated. Vin Lanana's UVA women win. Margaret Appleton. She must have split a 421. That's pretty damn good. Wow.
That's incredible.
That's
3 faster than the NCAA record.
She got the stick significantly behind Kimberly May. May splits 424. Appleton splits 421. They both run 1042. By the way, I think it was last year at Penn, right? It was Harvard set the Penn Relays and national record or collegiate record time of outdoor collegiate record time, right? What's the indoor record time?
Outdoor collegiate record. I think it's the overall collegiate record, actually.
10:37, but Ramsden also split. Oh, wow. Appleton has made history, folks. Her split today, John, 421.46. Ramsden's split last year was 421.47. So 100th of a second, we had the fastest thing. All right, I'm
Wow.
gonna go. So who do we have in this men's DMR, John? We got our boy.
Okay.
Is Langdon on this team? If he's not on this team, I'm rooting for Villanova to lose.
Langan has the baton in his hands right now, Robert. He's running right behind Simeon Birnbaum of Oregon. So Langan's in there with Villanova. Cornell's got a team in here, Robert. Georgetown, Virginia, Oregon, Wisconsin, Washington. It's a pretty loaded crop in there. Ooh, Langan went to take the lead and he tangled with Birnbaum. So they're getting up to 800 meters right now.
What's it like? How fast are they going out fast? I imagine Langdon's not letting it sit.
Pretty slow. Well, the Penn, I'm not good with the markings, but it looked like they were right around 2 flat for the first 800. So Langan's taken off. He needs to get it going.
Oh, John's behind. Handing off in the lead, Marco Langdon, 255.18, folks. The live splits are better than the flow track. I'll ruin it for everybody watching live. Okay, I won't do that. But Langdon is apparently hung off in the lead, 255.18. Marco, we love you. If you haven't listened, he was on our podcast the other day. We had a special midweek podcast. Fell in love with this guy. Just signed with Diadora.
Oh, he's gapping him too. This is I mean, you spoiled the outcome, but he's getting a nice gap coming off the final time. But A&M's going to be in second. I have to imagine A&M's got a better 400-meter length than Villanova.
That's a good point, John. Predicting the future. I'm just watching the names pop up and down. So A&M was second. Oregon was third. They top three, 255 for those two teams. Oregon, Virginia ran 256. Cornell, baby, ran 257.
Yeah, it took the Texas A&M guy about a little under 100 meters. Sorry, a little over 100 meters to catch
Texas
Villanova.
A&M has bolted back. Oh, wow. And Texas A&M is going to have Sam Whitmarsh on the 800. This could get interesting for Nova.
I know. This is a lot of talent in this. And I assume that we're going to have Nathan Green on anchor for Washington, and we're probably going to have Abel Tefra on anchor for Georgetown, and we'll have Liam Murphy, the NCAA record holder, on anchor for Villanova.
This is absolutely embarrassing. Doesn't Villanova still have a football team? Like, can't they use like $10,000 of the NIL money to get a 400 runner? They're 400
you expect they're going to have a 400 runner better than Texas A&M, though, Robert? Come on.
John, the Villanova runner went from first with a half-second lead to fourth. He ran a 48.9. Like, that's like Sidney McLaughlin could do that. They lost 4.04 seconds to Texas A&M on the 400. Jesus. Well, as Langdon says, it comes down to the anchor anyways.
Yeah,
Cooper Copper is pretty good, though, isn't he?
Cooper Copper is good, but he's not on the level of. I mean, he's not on the level of Gary Martin, or actually, Oregon's probably gonna have Eliud Cook. I don't know how healthy he's been because he was injured indoors, but Cooper Copper, I think he'll get rolled up by Nathan Green or Gary Martin, or even.
It's like, how big of a lead you need, you're safe. He has a 354 miler. So, folks, according to my splits, we're done with 800 already.
Yeah, but Martin's a 348 miler.
I assume most people listening on YouTube are not also watching on FlowTrack. If I am ruining it for you,
you're ruining for me, Robert. I'm a lap behind you. So
where are you? Have they finished the 800 leg yet?
No, Whitmarsh has got about 300 to go. So
okay, well,
Oregon. I forgot.
I won't ruin the anchor. I want you to predict with a lap to go what you think is going to happen. 200 to go. You tell me what you think is going to happen.
Yeah,
all right. Because Oregon off in the lead. A 1.7 second lead. He splits 146.7. Oregon splits 146.3. So 528.2, 529.9. 1.7 seconds is not enough for him to run away from everybody.
No.
Washington gets back in it with a 146.3. They're right there. Nathan Green looks like he's going to be anchoring.
Well, I think the problem is for Georgetown, it looks like Tefra is going to be too far behind. Him and Murphy. Oh, it's interesting. Murphy, actually, no. He'll be in touching distance. He got it. So Tefra is going to get a little behind Gary Martin and Liam Murphy, who both get it right about together. Props to FlowTrack, by the way, to having they've got the splits for the top three on the screen right after they ran the legs. So that was a good job by them.
Oh, damn. What happened to Cornell?
who's anchoring for Oregon? Is that Reinhard Harrison? It's not Elliot Cook, who is their best miler if he's healthy.
Reinhard Harrison. So
yeah.
Sports Club members that aren't watching live, they're listening on the podcast. I'll tell you what happened. Texas A&M got out of the 1.7 second lead of Oregon, who had basically right with Washington. 2 seconds behind Washington was Wisconsin. Another half second back to Villanova and Virginia. I'm assuming, John, that those top 6 teams are going to bunch up. Georgetown's another 2 seconds back. They're 7 seconds behind the lead. Georgetown is also 5 seconds behind Washington. That's going to be too much. They're 3 seconds behind Villanova. So Villanova's got to make up 2 seconds on Washington.
Basically,
my prediction based on this, Nathan Green will win this race.
Right. Nathan Green has enough of a gap on the other mile studs that he should put his foot to the gas and just try to break him away. You need to, you've got to lead here. Make it work for it.
He's only 2 seconds ahead of him.
He's got a nice gap with, they're coming up on 2 laps to go. And
he just run by? Is he running by himself?
No, he's right. He's closing the gap on A&M, and then Harrison's trying to hold on to him. But the other guys are not closing the gap on Nathan Green. So I think it looks like Green's been continuing to push it here, which is exactly what he should be doing.
Well, he's not. If he's continuing to push it, he's trying to catch the guy in front of him. John, it's kind
of obviously, but I guess that's true. Which is it's more a product of the A&M guy at front keeping the push it, at the
bell. Give me the gaps. Give me the top 5 and the gaps, and then give me your prediction because I'll be having the results soon. I'll try not to reveal what happens when it pops
Okay.
Up.
Well, Green is now on the shoulder of Cooper Cawthra, but he did not go by, and can't tell exactly what the gap is back to 4th. But there's a group of 3 right now. It's Texas A&M, Washington, and Oregon.
What about the UVA?
There's a bunch of Gary Martin, Adam Spencer, Liam Murphy, Abel Tefra, which I'm giving the anchors because there's so many stars. But that's Virginia, Wisconsin, Georgetown, and one other who I think I just mentioned.
How far back are they? How much time is left?
They're too far back. I think they look like they're about 20 or 30 meters back.
Give me a prediction at the bell.
Washington. It's a 3-team race. I just think the gap's they're maybe 30, 35 meters behind. I just think they're too far back.
Do you want me to give you the spoiler alert?
No, I don't want any spoilers, but the bell, it's A&M with Nathan Green right of Washington and on his shoulder, and then Oregon. I think Nathan Green's the best miler of that 3. So my pick is the Washington Huskies. Okay, Martin is really leading the charge of the chasers. So Nathan Green's gone to the lead on the back straight.
Wow, folks. Cornell finished
Harrison's
7th.
Going with them.
I will reveal Cornell has not won, but they've destroyed Harvard by 8 seconds.
Gary Martin's making a big bid, but he's just too far back. It looks like it's going to be Green.
I'll tell you this much, John. Gary Martin ends up with the 2nd fastest split of the day.
Yeah.
The fastest split of the day, guys, goes to a guy that finishes 6th. Oh, actually, holy shit, the Cornell guy had the fastest split of the day. Cornell for the win, baby. No, I didn't, actually.
I didn't think so. I was like, didn't look like
it. Washington wins 9:25.22, 355.1 on the anchor. Oregon 2nd, 356 on the anchor. A&M 3rd, 9:26. They edge Virginia by 1/100th of a second. Gary Martin, one of the faster splits, 357.78.
I'd say the hero is the 800 guy, Kyle Reinheimer. He had the fastest 800 split, 146.29 for Washington.
Michael Langen only 355. Tefra, the NCAA indoor champ, 353.30. Actually, he did have the fastest split there. He's 353.30. Shout out to Cornell's Pierre Atiobeg. He ran 353.52. He ran faster than Gary Martin. Unreal. They only finished 7th, though.
Yeah. I was wondering why Damian Hackett, that star miler, he's won a bunch of Heps titles, was leading off, but clearly they've got a great anchor like that. So, all right, that was your Penn Relays live watch along. Robert will be back tomorrow morning with the Jarman Diamond League. If you're listening live right now and you just watched us talk about the Penn Relays, you're a big running fan, you're probably a big Let's Run fan, consider joining the Supporters Club, letsrun.com/subscribe. We'll have boots on the ground London coverage on Sunday. I'll have, interviews, analysis, everything after the race. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and have a great weekend.
Shout out to our first listener ever from Venezuela, I believe. We need more Latin American visitors. Hablo un poquito de español.
Buenas noches, amigos.
Puedo enviar un t-shirt to Venezuela.